Hello guys, and welcome to another episode on learning to code in C#. So what I'm going to be looking at today are loops. Now loops are fantastic things, they're absolutely brilliant. In C# there are three different types of loops. There's the for loop, the do while loop, and the while loop. And they're used for varying different reasons, okay? So if you imagine, for example, a builder or a plumber, okay? And bear with me on this. They have, a toolbox, okay? And each one of those tools will do a particular job, and so the builder will, if he's doing something, he'll go to the toolbox and he'll know exactly what tool he's going to use for that particular job, or what tool is best for that job. Okay. Well, that's something that good programmers do an awful lot. They have this toolbox full of different commands, different languages, things like that. And they try to find out where certain things would be useful, would be really useful for their program. Okay, so like where these three loops would be useful and things like that. Okay, and that's what we're going to be looking at in this tutorial. We're going to be looking at how to use them, where to use them, and why you would use them in certain conditions. Okay. So like I said, there are three different loops, and the first one we'll look at is the for loop. Okay, and we create a for loop by simply using for, and then int I is equal to 0. I is less than, let's say, 10, then I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, so in here, what we're doing is we're creating an integer variable called I, and we're setting it to 0. And then we're For loops are kind of like, or just loops in general, are kind of like if statements, okay? Because they work on true-false basis. So like here, it's basically asking itself, if I is less than 10, then go down to here and do something. And then once we've finished there, go back up here and increment I. Okay, so let's see this working. We'll create a console.writeLine, and then we will output I, like so. Press Control and F5, and here we've got 0 to 9. Okay, so and that's great, but let's actually see this working in full. Okay, so F5. Okay, so we start here, and we're assigning I to an integer variable, and we're setting it to 0. Okay, and now that's the last time that code is going to be executed. It's going to be read. Okay, so F11, and now we're inside here. So the program is asking itself if I is less than 10, okay, and I is 0. So in this case, it's true, and Visual Studio has kindly said that it is indeed true. So now we're going down to the body of the loop, which is this bit, okay. Anything that is inside these curly brackets is called the body, okay. So we're now outputting whatever I is, in this case 0, and we'll go back up, and then now it's incrementing I, okay? And then we go to the condition again, and we're testing if I is less than 10, and it is indeed. So we just continue going until I is 10, okay? So until this condition is false. So at the moment I is 5, so we will continue going. I is 6, I is 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I is now 9. We're incrementing I, so now I is 10, and this condition is now false. Okay, so what's going to happen is that this loop is going to break, like so, and it's going to exit the program. Okay, so that's kind of like how for loops work. Now, and just like if statements, okay, for loops can be nested. You can create nested for loops. And you do this simply by creating another for loop inside the for loop. So we do this by writing for, and then let's create another integer variable called j, and let's set it equal to 0. Let's say j is less than 10, and I put k instead. Oops. Okay, now this time what I'm going to do is just put j++. Now, this is a shorthand way of writing that, okay? So I'll just do that. It's exactly the same, it's just a shorthand way of doing it. Okay, and we will just write constant right line. Let's put J. Okay. So the output of this is going to look a bit horrible, but don't worry, we'll have a look through it. So like I said, it's just full of numbers and it's a bit weird. So what's going on? Well, let's have a look. I think just splitting the screen will be quite useful. Let's put the breakpoint around there. Okay, so we've entered our for loop, and just like before, we're seeing whether I is less than 10. I indeed is less than 10, and so we go inside the body of the for loop. We output I, and now we're going inside this new for loop. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit different. Okay, so again we've created our integer variable called j, set it to 0, and we're testing to see if j is less than 10. It is. So now we're outputting j. This is where it gets different, because this loop will not break out, as in it will not go back, it will not continue until j is 10. Okay, so until that condition is false. And just like so, it's not going back to the I, this loop, because this one is still true. So this will not break until that is false. And we can see it writing 0 to 4 there. So let's continue going. So j is now 6, 7, and I'm reading it from here just so you know, so you don't get confused. J is now 9, and now j is 10. Okay, so now we're testing to see if it's true. It isn't, it's false. So now what we're going to do is break out of that for loop and go back to the first one, okay, and increment I. So now I is 1, and it's just going to go round and round and round like that. So it's just a for loop inside another for loop, okay. So now what we're getting is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1. So this is the part where we're going back to the original for loop, and then we're doing it again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then 2, and it will continue going until I is false. So I is 10. And just to speed this up a bit, I'll just press F5. Oh, that's fine. So let's just have a look at that one more time. So I is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I is 9, and we can see the output. Okay. We'll go down in there again. So, yeah. And we'll create another breakpoint around there. So j is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9. And the program ends because this condition is now false. Okay. Okay, so that's the for loop. Okay, very, very simple. It's just looping round a number of times, the number of times that you've set. Okay. So it's fairly simple, fairly easy to understand, but they are incredibly useful and are very, very useful in lists and arrays. Now, they are, we'll be getting onto lists and arrays a little bit later down the line, but if you imagine a shopping list, okay, with loads and loads of products and loads of items on that list, then you're not really far wrong. Okay, that's pretty much exactly what it is. And you use for loops with arrays and lists, but we'll get onto them a little bit later. So now what we're going to look at is the do while loop. Okay, so we write it like so, and don't worry about the red line, that will go in there. Okay, so let's say for instance, that you are writing a program, a cinema program, in fact, and what's happening is there's a number of customers that want to go see a film, okay, and they continue going, okay, so the program continues to loop around, and it asks each and every time whether there's another customer. So you just press start again, and it will loop back to the top, and then it will go down. It will go down asking your name, your age, what film you want to see, things like that, and then it will just continue looping and looping and looping until, let's say, the manager comes along and says, okay, there's no more customers, close down, and the loop then ends. Okay, so let's code that up. Let's write console.writeLine, and let's put new customer, let's say. Let's actually put console.write this time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is write a bool, which is a true false, so boolean, and we're going to write new customer. Okay. Then what we can do is, wait a minute. Yes, that's fine. Just think for a minute. We can write a string is equal to no, I'm getting tired. It's 11 o'clock, so it's not too bad. Well, 14 minutes now. Anyway, string, let's say customer is equal to console dot readline, like so. Okay, and let's now create an if statement, and let's say if customer, so the output that the customer has inputted, or rather the value that is now inside customer from the input that the user has provided. It's getting a bit weird. So if customer, let's say, is equal to yes, then let's say new customer is equal to true. Okay, and else new customer is equal to false. Okay. So, like I said in the previous video, there could be problems with this, being if someone inputs a lowercase s or an uppercase s and things like that. So what we're going to do is just, actually no, we're not going to put that there, we're going to put it here, dot to lower. Okay, so now this is fairly robust. What I'm going to now do is inside this while loop, I'm going to put new customer is equal to true. Okay, so what are we doing? Well, we're creating a Boolean variable. Okay, now a Boolean is true or false, yes or no. Okay, and we're creating the new customer variable, and inside this do loop, we're asking for a new customer, and then we're saying we are taking that we're taking the input that the user has given us, we're converting it to lowercase, and then putting it inside this string called customer. Then what we're doing is we're saying if customer is equal to yes, then we're saying that the new customer is true. So we're assigning true to the new customer. Okay. If, however, it's no, or they've done something invalid, then we can just put new customer is equal to false is assigned to new customer. Okay, so this will continue. This loop will continue until new customer is equal to false. Okay, so this loop will think of it like this: do this while the new customer is equal to false. If, however, new customer is equal, I've said it wrong, sorry. If do this while the new customer is equal to true. If, however, the new customer is equal to false, then break out of it. Don't do it anymore. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Let's test it out. Control and F5, new customer, and let's put yes. And that's not working. Isn't that working? Oh, that's why. Let's try again. New customer, yes. Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's fine. So yes, and so it's all working great. Okay, so it's just asking for a new customer every single time. So now we can just put no, and it breaks out. Okay, so that's basically a do-while loop. Okay, it's just asking for something again and again and again while a certain condition is true in this case. Okay, now while loops can be used, do-while loops can be used for loads and loads of different things, but the important thing to remember is that this code will always execute. Okay, this code will always execute even if the new customer is equal to false. Okay, now that's really, really important, because for example, let's say I put new customer equal to false. Okay, so let's see what happens, because this is the difference between the do loop and the do while. The do while loop and while. Let's start it. It's asking for a new customer. Okay, so let's put yes. And it's asking for a new customer again, so no. So it's not actually testing the it's not testing to see if this new customer is true or false. It's just going through once, and it will always go through once. Okay, so I think the best way to show the difference between the do while and while loop is just creating a while loop. So while new customer is equal to true, and let's now just put that on. Let's comment this out. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so now let's see what happens. Oopsie. That's fine. We'll put it as true for now. Okay, so new customer, yes, yes. So now no. Okay, so it works pretty much the same as before. However, if now I put in false for the new customer, let's now have a look. It's not doing anything. Okay, now this is because it's testing it before our code is executing. Okay, so the big difference here is our code executes, then it tests the condition for the do while loop, and in the while loop it tests the condition and then executes. Okay, so just to recap, this one executes the code, then it tests. The while loop tests first and then executes. Okay, so that's really, really important to understand. Okay, so that's the while loop, the do while loop, and the for loop, which isn't too bad. Okay, so what I would now recommend is that you go away and have a look at the cinema system and see if you can incorporate the do while loop. Okay, and see if you can create a system where it where it asks for a new customer every single time it goes around. And let's say then the manager comes up and says, okay, no more customers, and then the loop breaks out, and then our program ends essentially. Okay, and then what you can do maybe is output the number of people that have asked, that have been on the system and seen a film or something like that. Okay, so you're getting a bit of statistics there. So yeah, I would look at that. I would do, for the cinema system, I would use the do while loop. Okay, and yeah, have fun with that. One other little thing that you might be interested in is if I close this. Actually, I want to close the solution. Let's press no and open this one. Okay, now I won't show you the code for this because this is a little project for you. Okay, this is a little test to see if you can get it to work. Okay, so what I want you to do is see if you can create this. Okay, so there are 20 asterisks and 10 lines. Okay, so let's see if you can create that. If you can create a program that will output this little box. Okay, and then let's see if you can create like 1 asterisk there, then 2, then 3, then 4, and it keeps on going until it reaches 20 asterisks down at the bottom. That might be an interesting little project for you. Okay, so see if you can get that to work. In the next video, I will I'll show you how to create the cinema system and use the do while loops. And I'll also show you how to create this. Now, with a little tip for you, use a for loop. Okay, so that's my little tip for creating that. And yeah, hope that was interesting. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, see you next time. Thanks very much, and have a great day, or night in this case.